Hey, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm AmusedJester. My name is Junior, and today we're going to be discussing the lower jaw of the 5-foot studio scale Millenium Falcon, designed by Darrin Hurd. Thank you again, Darrin, for giving us the opportunity to build the design and to share it with us for free. I can't believe you did that. I know that you worked very long on this project. So I'm very glad that I got the opportunity to start building this. So again, this is only the lower jaw for the Millenium Falcon. As you can see, this has this part right here. This should not be here. This is supposed to be actually part or within the aluminum frame already. I'm just putting it in here for now, just to show you what's going on. So that's a reference point only. This is by magnet, so you can always remove it. I have it temporarily glued in, and as you can see, it's shifting the landing gear itself. So it's, once you have this in the aluminum frame, this won't shift at all. It will be pretty solid. Let's go to the computer really quickly, because there is a bit of confusion on my part, specifically for this panel over here. This is one big panel. Because I chose the landing gear option, so I had to put a different panel that Darrin supplied so that this has the opening. I just had to switch it. Let's go to the computer right now. Now this one is the jaw panels lower A&H and New Hope. Now this is where I got kind of confused, and this is not exactly Darrin's setup, because if you look at this part right here, Darrin won't have this square hole. This is actually from a different file folder that he had. What confused me is in the directions, as Darrin suggested, the jaw panels lower A&H is basically exactly the same thing, except the middle part of this one, wherein he allotted for the closed landing gear, the no landing gear version. This part comes from the landing gear inset jaws. That's the file folder's name. I transferred it over to here because this is the skin, so I'm using white filament on this one, while as the landing gear inset jaws and all that stuff, I'm using black, just because I don't have a lot of white filament. This might not be an issue for you, but I just had to move it over here. That's the only change that I did for the jaw panels lowering A&H. I am not going to print the closed one because I needed the landing gear here. This is what I was referring to earlier, the landing gear inset jaws. In Darrin's file folder, the preset one, there's actually 4 build plates here. This is the inset jaw. This is the frame for it. The panel that I showed you with an opening, and there was a smaller one over here. So I took those out and I put it on the panels lower A&H. Let's go to the computer right now. Okay, I hope that explained it a little bit. If you want, I'm only showing this right now as reference points to see how things are oriented. Darrin pretty much has everything on a picture, and it's pretty self-explanatory. But just in case you want to know, I think this is how it's supposed to look. I say I think because, I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems to be okay. There are a few changes that I did different from how Darrin instructed things. Let me see if I can remember them. One is, this is no longer moving. I will be discussing in later part of the video that this is supposed to be able to move a little bit, and able to go up and down. I used hot glue so I can completely reverse it. If for some reason down the road I made a mistake of affixing this to the bolt, basically, then I can always remove the hot glue gun. But when I do the part of the landing gear, please pay attention to my explanation of why I kind of made this fixed compared to how Darrin originally designed it. Again, this is only on my part. Please be careful when you do yours. Study it first and make sure that you know what you're doing. There really isn't any set of instructions or video instructions. This is the first one that I know of. So we're kind of, or at least I'm kind of trying to feel my way around. Everything is pretty much self-explanatory. It's just a few things. And then the other thing that I did, let's see if I can remove this. And I discussed, you know what, the other thing that I did, and I discussed this, was the inner jaw box in here that connects to this one. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be glued or not. I'm just going to leave it unglued so I can always swap it in and out if I want to. I can remove this landing gear separate from this. I can remove this entire, let me see if I can remove this part. Okay, so I can remove from here to here completely anytime I want to, if I were to disconnect this lower jaw from the main Millenium Falcon and transform this into the sealed Millenium Falcon. The only thing is, if I were to do that, I would have this hole over here. I'm wondering if Darrin can create something like a panel that closes this. If not, I think I can kind of do something similar, but it won't be as clean as this one, because once you attach this panel here, it's glued in, so you can't really replace that. So like a panel that you can attach in would be nice, but then of course it will have a raised panel here. It will show. But for me, I intend to do my Millenium Falcon with the landing gear anyway. Alright, so first change that I did was I affixed the this landing gear to the bolt. I'm leaving this loose, the inside jaw box for the landing gear. I'm leaving that loose so I can always remove it back and forth. And the last thing that I did is this part right here. So this is the inner part of the jaw, as you can see. So what I did, and the glue might still be fresh, I hope it's not, it's only been an hour. So I think this is supposed to be glued onto the frame, but what I did was I installed magnets in here. Like, this two parts don't exist in Darrin's design, so I had to kind of cannibalize a few things on the design and cut and paste and created these two magnet points. The only reason why I did that is because these two slots over here are supposed to be if you want to install lights, and I'm not, and this is for the wiring, that's where the wires go. I'm not doing the lights right now. I might do it in the future, but the problem is when you do and you glue this in, well, you won't be able to insert the two wires and the lights in here. So I did this so I can always open this up and just access that part of the panel. I will ask Darrin clarification for that, and maybe he can put in these two magnet points into the design for everybody else. Mine isn't really a good solution. Mine is just kit bashed in a way, so yeah, I don't know how strong it is, but it works for me right now. Anyway, so let's go. Please forgive me with how this whole thing is going to be edited. I shoot things as I go, and sometimes it's not necessarily the way I intended it to be. So the editing is going to be poor. It's not going to be smooth and everything. So I apologize for that. I'm not professional or anything. I'm just doing it for educational purposes. And again, I have to reiterate that this is my way of building it. It's not it may not be the correct way of building it, but use this as a reference for your build and make sure that just in case you're able to backtrack your progress. As far as I know, from what I've glued permanently, it should be okay. And then this part right here seems to be left bare. I don't know if Darrin will put something in there right now, but I do know that in the photographs in his document, you can still see this is bare and this has the line and everything, but the upper part has something in here. But anyway, let's go in parts of the video, and I'll hopefully I'll edit it so that it makes sense. Alright, so this is dealing with the construction of the landing gear. As you've seen, these are the two parts for this one. You have the disc over here, and then you have the actual feet themselves. They're separated into parts, so you have to glue them together. When you print this out, I don't know about you, but my printer sometimes made these too small, so you guys I had to carve it out a little bit. I think this one might actually be pretty good. Let's see. This printed out, yeah, this will actually fit my, these are actually part of the files that Darrin put out, so they're basically just making sure it all aligns properly. Now it's up to you. And he did it in like certain sizes, so they're kind of like different sizes. If one doesn't fit, just grab another one and see if that one fits. I usually use this to push it in. I'm not going to glue this because this is too tight. Let's look for another one. I think these are mostly for guides, just to make sure that your piece aligns properly. And in fact, when I test fitted this, I found them to be a little bit too long, so I'll just clip just a little bit of it. I just need a little bit of a stub coming on there. And now when I test fit this, see how there's no gap. If I had left those tips in, there would be a gap. So this is ready to be glued. This is ready to be glued. And let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, now that my parts are attached, I'm going to talk about the bolts that Darrin suggested. It's an M8 -30, which looks something like this. This is the hexagon cap, and then this is the M8 -24 coupling nut, and this is the M8 130 rounded cap. Now I live in the US, so I'm not using the metric system. I'm gonna the equivalent for this one, which I purchased, is the 5/6. This is the 5/16 -18 by 5 inches, which is equivalent to almost 130 millimeters. This is the 5/16 -18 1 1/4 inch, and then this coupling nut is the 5/16 -18 1 inch, or 0.98. Those are the ones that I'm using. So, and I have to remind you guys that this is just from what I've read, and you guys, please make sure you read the instructions that Darrin put in, so you guys can decide for yourself, because I might not get this properly correct. And if you don't be afraid to ask the forums to make sure that you get the instructions correctly from Darrin's instructions. So he describes these three nuts, and then the bolt, and you're supposed to slide this in and glue it in here. Once you do that, then you put in the 1 1/4 or the 24mm bolt through to secure it. I'm not gonna glue mine because it seems secure enough in here, but he says, and I'll read the instructions. The supports slots, which is this one, onto the extrusion and are printed with a higher infill and wall count for structural strength. We then glue in place the coupling nut and bolt the M830 through the top part. The cup head bolt, which is this one, then slots through the center of the whole structure and is tightened into the coupling nut. He's referring to, you then put this in here, and then this part, and this part. Okay, you'll notice it has a lot of giveaway, and he designed it so you can actually slide the parts back and forth, right? So it's supposed to be loose like that. So imagine this is inside the piece. Imagine that this is inside the aluminum Falcon, and this is the landing gear, and there's something in here, right? So what you're supposed to do when you're ready to secure it, you just put this in like so. And like I said, it's loose. So now you can, and now it says you can now bolt this into the structure like so. And this is going to stop once it meets that screw in here. Notice that the whole piece is spinning. It's now stopped. It's met that part right here. Once you're ready to attach it to the Millenium Falcon, you then just push this down. Because like I said, it's got a lot of play in it. Because this is not what's holding the Millenium Falcon up. It's actually the bolt, right? So I think that's how it's supposed to be. And as you can see, this is going to stick in there, and that's going to stick, and that's going to hold. But of course, it's going to have some rotation. Now, what I'm going to do is something different, because let me show you something really interesting. If this, I can actually detach this entire thing by just uncoupling it from the top. Once you do that, as you saw, this whole piece just fell away. Actually, this whole piece will fall away too, because that just slides in like so. So technically, I could, if I want to, just glue this entire structure in as one piece. And then when I'm ready to bolt this into this piece, I just put this up, put this up here, and then just thread this in. And we're back to that same piece again. Now, you're thinking, well, this is supposed to be inside. It's not, because this is the one that's supposed to be inside. And what happens is this basically then magnetizes. And that's how you attach this whole landing gear into the Millenium Falcon. If you don't want the Millenium Falcon to be on the landing gear, all you have to do is, oh, this is like demagnetize, pull it out of the magnet socket, and then you cover it up, and that's it. This is the one thing that stays inside the frame. All right, so that's the landing gear as far as I can understand it. Yeah, so I don't know I don't know if this is supposed to go like this. I'll find out when I'm. So I don't know how it really goes. As far as I know, it seems to be like that. So let's go back to the actual construction of this thing. So that's, I'm gonna leave it like that. So like I said, I'm not gonna glue the coupling nut into the coupling nut in here. I want everything to be removable. I don't want to make a mistake yet. So I can always glue it back later, you know. I can't unglue it once it is, so I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. Falcon, this so that's it. In particular is the lower version of the jaw, which is why you see the landing gear over here. The method or the pattern of how I'm constructing it is kind of important. I've as you can see with the tape over here, I've test fitted this and everything, and I did discover a few things. I'll show you a cutaway video now to further explain a little bit what I'm talking about. Right, so this is a cutaway. I've already glued this part, and you'll see that later on. The reason why you need to do these first before you attempt this one is because these actually will lay and you want to make sure that this part, this follows the slant of the gray of your jaw boxes, because this actually lays on top like so, okay? And it doesn't go underneath here. It doesn't go underneath the lip hair or anything like that. This goes on top. Does that make sense? And then this is supposed to be flushed with the edge of this one. And then this, any seams over here, you'll just basically I forgot, spackle it or fill it up. The same thing on the sides. When you put this in, the edge of this one will match the edge of this one. It does. This top does not go underneath here. There's nothing. This is supposed to follow the slant. This white sheet is supposed to follow the slant of the gray. So what happens then is you will end up looking like that. Okay? And that's basically it. So now we'll just do the, you'll see me start gluing this in the proper sequence. All right, now that you've seen that, the rest of it is going to be in the fast motion thing. So and the rest of the video will be silent all the way up to the very end, but the numbering of what I lay out first in terms of the panel is kind of important. So that's it. That's the build that I have for the lower jaw. I'm not gonna, I don't think I'm gonna go ahead and record the upper jaw because it should be about the same, probably a lot easier because it doesn't have to deal with this plane over here. All right, so we've glued everything. I've shown you how to do that. There are a few changes that I made that I talked about in the earlier part of the video. One is that I installed the interior or the inner jaw here. This is still the lower jaw, but this section over here is just one piece that's included. This is the Empire Strikes Back version, not the A&H version. So this is the inner panel. Now, one change that I did is I believe this is supposed to be glued in. As you can see, it's supposed to be glued in here. Now this part, the mounts and the magnets, is something that I did and added. There's a magnet here too. The reason is that in the future, if I want to wire this or put lighting in it, I realized that if I had glued this in like that, if this was glued in, I no longer have any access to put in my wire here later on. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but just in case, because these two are the holes where you'll put in your lights. So you won't be able to do that if this is glued in. So what I did was I made up this thing, magnets and the holder for it. I just basically cut apart some of Darrin's design, you know, like this part. I just cut this small part out and then glued it in, and then this one. So now if I want to, I can access it, and it's glued, it's magnet, so it's strong enough, right? It's using the same magnets as this one. That's one of the changes that I did. The second change that I did was the landing gear. In the earlier part of the video, I described that this is loose, designed as it is. That's the way it's supposed to be designed, so that you can, so that when you're attaching it to this part, and this part's supposed to be glued into this one. So imagine this is glued in like so. It's actually supposed to be like that, right? And when you're attaching the landing gear, you're supposed to be bolting it in through here, and this is supposed to have play, and it will turn around. From what I can see, and I think I discussed this in the video, from what I can see, I could actually attach this going through here, and I've played with it, and I've played with it. I've disassembled this over and over, and it doesn't seem to make a difference whether you're going through this way, the way it's designed, or this way, because in the end, the support structure in this one is the bolt. That's the one that's giving it strength. This was just one, there's just two different ways of bolting it into place. So let me show you the way I do it. Instead of bolting it through here, I'm gonna bolt it through the top. So this is completely reversible. What I did, as you can see, this is just a hot glue gun. I hot glued it here, I hot glued it here, and in here. So if I want to, I can disassemble this whole thing and go back to the way it was originally designed by Darrin, because I did not make this permanent. I can just, this is just hot glue. It will just easily peel off if I want to, but it's providing enough of a grip so that it's not moving. But you know, but anyway, so the way I would do it is, oh, the other thing I made a change of is this part, because this is actually two pieces. You know that, right? So I'm not sure if this part is supposed to glue in to this slot. I'm not sure if you're supposed to glue that in. Now, the reason why, and as you can see now, it's the way it is. It's flushed here, it's flushed here, and it's flushed here. The reason why I am not gluing mine is because whenever I try to put this in, and make sure you put this one in where it says front jaws, that's towards the front. Every time I put mine in, for some reason, when I see there's a gap there, I cannot push this anymore. I've tried it before, and what occurred was it basically pushed out the glue on mine. So for some reason, I cannot make that go flush, and if I force it, it's gonna unglue or force my glue open. Now, is it supposed to be flush? Yes, I believe it is, because let me remove this. Right, the whole box is removed. So now, see how it's flush it is right now? And I'm gonna go ahead and install this way. See. And look now, it's flushed. See? And it didn't buckle my panel. I've had to re-glue this again because when I pushed it unbuckled it. So I'm not gonna glue that in. I'm not sure if it's necessary. I will test it and see. Obviously it's reversible, so I don't know why it is when if I were to do the box first and then this one, why it's sticking. I don't know what's the hang up on it. I don't understand. But that's the other one I sort of changed, just to let you know. So this is how I install my landing gear. I'll push this in here. I'll get my bolt and one of these guys, right? We're gonna screw this in. It's gonna have play, yes, it's gonna have play. Not as bad as it was before, or it would be before. Now that's tight. I don't know if this has to be super, super tight, because like I said, all it really needs is this bolt. Once it meets the other side of the bolt through that coupling nut, that's not gonna move, and that's the one providing the strength. And then you put this in. Technically this should be on the frame, so when you're ready, just push this in, push it in, and that's it, right? And then you just attach this to your coupling, to your frame. And once this is attached by magnets here, then I think that's pretty much it. It should be stable. I guess we'll find out once I attach it to the frame. I'm gonna hold it through here and see how there's no movement in this one, right? So I'm supporting this entire thing as if it was bolted into the frame, and there's no movement on mine. So I think that's pretty much it. That will finish off the jaw part of the Millenium Falcon. Anyway, that's it for this part of the Millenium Falcon. Like I said, I might not do the upper part, or if I do, it'll be a separate video. It'll be shorter video. It's not going to be as complicated as this one, because this one, the reason why this took longer was because I had to print the support block for the landing gear. I had to deal with the landing gear itself, and then figure out how it attaches to the aluminum frame. I have a better grip on the idea on that now. So the next one, if I do the upper part of the jaw, it'll be shorter. And then after that, it's going to take a little bit longer, because usually my process is I print the parts in section, in that particular section, and then I will test fit it, and hopefully I won't encounter any areas where I have to print a second part or a second section just for it to make sense, which is what happened in this one. And then when I do, I have to test fit it several times and try to figure out how it's supposed to fit, and hopefully it works out. So It's gonna be a while. I know this has been like what, 2 weeks since the last one, um, but it might take that long anyway. But thank you again to Darrin for providing us with the software or with the design for this one. I hope you guys are appreciative of his efforts, and I hope it helped you out. And we'll see you again on the next part and next section. Bye.